Welcome back, everyone. It's Jaws Munch. Sorry I haven't made another video recently, but today we're going to be going over key bindings and the proper settings that you should have when beginning in Beyond All Reason. I hope you guys enjoy. Now let's get into it. Alrighty, so we are here back in Beyond All Reason with some key bindings for you guys. Now, it took me a minute to set this up, so pardon me if it is not exactly right. I'm just doing the best I can with what I have for this setup, but basically I want to show you guys kind of where I'm putting my fingers. For those of you who may be new to RTS or new to Beyond All Reason, and then I want to go over some basic settings that you guys should have down if you haven't already, and then just kind of go over the key bindings that I use in a little bit more of a slow and specific manner so that you guys can learn from that. So we're just gonna start off with the basic economy and your beginning setup before we start the game. So what I usually like to do is rest my hand on shift, which the shift key is exceptionally good for RTS games because it lets you queue up multiple items while you're building so that you are able to build things one right after the other. And then I also will rest my other finger, so pinky on shift, and then my other finger on Z. And Z lines up with our economy tab. So Z is what I'm going to use to toggle my economy buildings. All right. And then my other finger will be lined up with X, which is our combat buildings. And then my other finger will be lined up with C, which is our utility buildings. Now, the reason why you want to do this is because in bar, most of these keys, or most of the buildings, are all based on a quick toggle from selecting either your economy, your combat, or your utility. And the faster you can do that, the better. So what we're going to be mainly getting used to, and what I recommend practicing, is getting your basic starting buildings down with just your Z key. So try to rest in a comfortable position where you have your space bar is a natural position, and you can also toggle V as well, which is your buildings, your production facilities, with V as well, from C to V. That's how I like to do it. Other people may suggest differently. Anyway, so we're going to be opening up with a actually, I think normally I rest pinky on Z now that I'm thinking about it. Sometimes things don't quite feel right when you're explaining things and you get lost. But yeah, normally I rest on Z, but you could rest on shift as well. It really just depends on what you feel comfortable with. Both would work. You can reach everything you need to regardless. Anyway, so we're opening up with a metal extractor, and we're going to be holding down shift while we're placing the buildings. And then usually you can build only 2 metal extractors before you start to run low on energy. And so with this map, the wind speed is quite good, so we're going to be placing a couple more windmills, which is ZC. That's what you're going to want to do. So Z opens up your economy tab, C selects your wind turbine. You could also go C or ZX. So Z opening up your economy tab, X opening up with solar panels. That's another opening you could do. And then so after we get those 2 placed, we'll be placing our 3rd metal extractor. Okay, and then going into some more wind. Probably that's all we'll really need. There's also rotations. I made a hotkey video going over every single hotkey you need, but it's really just the brackets. You can rotate your buildings with brackets. But I'm not really showing that side of the keyboard at this point because it's kind of a niche hotkey that you don't really use all that frequently. But if you're curious, go check out the other hotkey video that I made about a year ago. All right, and then we'll be opening with the bot lab. So we'll just lock in there, and then our commander will build everything in that specific order that we placed it. All right, now while he's building, I want to go over some settings that I recommend for you to use. All right. First off, I definitely recommend that you go to interface and toggle on the auto flip function. What that will do is essentially make it so that regardless of where you're facing, your map will auto flip to compensate for how you're facing on the battlefield. That can be helpful if you like to rotate your direction of your map in any way. So just keep that in mind. It's a pretty good function. And then next we're going to go to game, and we're going to make sure that some of these are either toggled on or off based on what you prefer. So there's a couple big ones, one of them being the auto repeat function. So if you have this turned on, that means your factory will constantly being auto repeat, like constantly pumping out the same units that you were building. Yeah, and it'll just keep queuing them up over and over, and it's a good way to make a cycle. I don't really recommend you having this on, so just check to make sure that is off in your menu if for some reason you feel like you keep on having to toggle it off. I think at default is off, so you shouldn't have to worry about that one. And then we also have factory guard. This one is on by default. You might not like it. This is a new setting that they added probably almost a year ago now. It basically will make it so any units that are built in the factory that have build power will walk back and start to help build more units out of the factory. If you toggle it off and you set your rally point to here, then all your builders will end up here. If you have it on and you set your rally point to here, then all of your builders will actually end up right here. So it's really a personal preference on what you like. It can be helpful to leave it on just to make sure your builders don't end up walking into a big fight.
Battle paused.
Another one that is on by default, as far as I know, is the transport AI. This will mean that if you build a transport, it will automatically begin transporting units for you. I find this incredibly annoying just due to the fact most of the time it transports the units where I don't want them to be. You can toggle it on or off depending on what you prefer. I like to manually use my transports more often than not. So just, make your determination based on that. So essentially what will happen is if you have your units queued to walk here by default out of the factory, your transport will fly down, pick up your unit, fly over to where you have your unit positioned to walk, and then drop it. Now the problem is maybe there's AA over here and your transport will just get shot down because it's flying too close to the front. Who knows? Or maybe there's enemies that start walking this way and now you need your units as soon as they come out of the factory to start fighting. Well, your transport doesn't know that, so it's going to pick them up anyway. So that's one of the reasons why I don't really like that setting. So I recommend toggling that off, but it is entirely up to you. Next one, that is the most important one. So if you don't have this toggled on, please toggle it on. This is how you can outmaneuver your opponents and prioritize targets just so much better. Okay, so normally when you have this toggled off, what it will do is when you go to fight an opponent, it will basically lock on your unit and you can't micro him. So as soon as you choose a target you want to attack, say you press A and you attack that specific target, you move away, now he's going to target whatever he wants to. So say you have like 5 pawns here that are attacking you, and then you have a centurion back here, and you want to attack the centurion and also kind of move your commander around so he doesn't get hit so much. Well, when you go to attack the centurion and you click on him, your commander will stop moving. Pressing A and then selecting that unit will stop him moving. And then when you move him again, he's going to no longer target that Centurion, and he's going to instead target whatever's closest to him. So it's very, very valuable to toggle this setting on.
Battle paused.
Because this will mean that he will prioritize the Centurion. So while he's walking away, while you're kiting him away, regardless of where this unit's at, the commander will always be prioritizing that target. So as soon as he comes back in range, he's going to be shooting at other targets, and as soon as he reaches the Centurion's range, he's going to target the Centurion and start firing at the Centurion. So that's really one of the more valuable settings that you can toggle on. So please make sure you have that toggled. And then if you end up hating it, you can toggle it off, but I highly recommend that you leave it on. All right, let's get some build orders going up. So we want to get a couple constructors. We'll probably go for like 5 pawns and Lazarus or 2. We're just gonna kind of play through a little bit slower, give you guys a chance to understand some of the basic key bindings if you have been maybe struggling with them and not practicing with them as much. And that's really the point of this video. So first thing we're going to do is just do an area metal extractor upgrade, which is just double pressing Z, and then we can do an area of effect, and we will capture every metal extractor that is within this area. So it's very good if you know, say you are the middle and you know all of these metal extractors are yours. You can just kind of area of effect to draw it out where your guy is supposed to, you know, hold, and he will automatically build rather than just going and pressing Z and holding shift for every single one. This can work, but sometimes if you have a lot, it takes a bit more time. This is much faster. So keep that in mind. Just use it cautiously. Otherwise, your allies will probably not be very happy. One of the biggest things is with most of your key bindings is you're going to only have a handful that you really need all the time. Ones like Z for your metal extractor, ZX for your solar panels, ZC for your windmills, and then also Alt is a big one for making the grid pattern, okay? So those are some of the key ones that you're going to want all the time. And then another one is ZA or VA. So your building menu and A will get you out your constructor turret, which will be very, very valuable in this game. So we're running out of power. Let's go ahead and Z, C, and then Shift Alt, and then do a click and drag. That will build up a large grid for our commander. So this is one of the powers of having your key bindings memorized, is you can go very rapidly and place out large amounts of building rather than like clicking on your wind turbine. You know, moving your mouse over here, clicking on your wind turbine, moving your screen every time you go over there, you know, that's kind of annoying. So it's very, very valuable to be able to just have your key bindings practiced a little bit. So if you've been playing multiplayer or been playing without using key bindings like this, take a little bit of a chance, reset, and play some scenarios. Go back in your skill. You may be even like 20 OS or something. I know it's going to hurt. It's going to feel bad. You're going to play worse when doing this at the beginning. But learning how to toggle between your items is going to be a game changer for you, okay? You're going to have an insane ability to grab items quickly. Like one of the ones that is very common for me is just VS. Instantly, I can toggle to it because I know that's my T2 of whatever version unit I'm using. So I select my T1 bot, I go VS, boom. Now I have T2 lab up. Or say you misclicked, you can quickly get out of that menu and build whatever you want, you know? Build a bot lab, build a vehicle lab, air lab. They're all relatively easy to get to after you memorize where they are. And it just takes time. It just takes time to do it. Another thing I wanted to go over is the key bindings for your units. So let's get out a couple different types of units here. Let's see. We'll get a couple rocket bots, maces, centurions, crossbows, and ticks. All right, now most of these are already set, so I'm going to actually delete them by pressing Alt, and I think that's tilde. And that will remove my key bindings for my units, my hotkeys. And let's toggle on some cheats, huh? That way we get free units. I'll make this much faster. Get a couple of these. All right, and we just want to basically turn off the key bindings for all of these units. So when you first load up the game, all of your units that you build are going to have no numbers on them, no way to select them quickly, and you'll have to click and drag, and you'll be fighting in a line like this. You'll just be taking your whole army. Some of them will be moving fast, some of them will be moving slow. Your long-range units go in combination with your short-range units. And this is extremely ineffective because each of these units are designed for specific tasks. So your rocket bots, they are designed for long-range poke engagement. So they can shoot a longer distance than most of your other units, but they also are really weak to spam. So I really recommend categorizing your artillery, which these would be considered light artillery, and then your raiding units, which we can grab all of our raiding units, and scouts often kind of go into that same category, raiding and scouts, and then your frontline units, which would be all of these maces and centurions, grouping them all together into a hotkey. And then we also have these crossbows, which are anti-air. So I put these in a different key binding as well. Now, the very cool and unique thing about Beyond All Reason is that you can set permanent hotkeys for your games. Most other RTSs, you have to constantly and consistently create unit groupings that you have to remake every single time units die. But with Beyond All Reason, you can set it and then forget it because they will automatically become part of the unit group that you attach to them. Now, you can make control groups the same way you would in a normal RTS, which is just, sorry, I'm scooting my keyboard over. I do that all the time in game. You can make control groups with control 1 or control 2, control 3, and it will automatically make it so anytime you press that key, they come up. So if you end up like going over here, you're messing with other stuff, and you need your crossbows really quick, they'll automatically pop up when you press 1. You can also, this is another important thing, you can also double tap 1, and it will jump you directly to your crossbows. So that's a really powerful key for being able to maneuver your units quickly and move rapidly even across the map. So what I definitely recommend is, well, first off, I wanted to show the difference between control groups and alt groups, okay? Alt groups are a bit different. So a control group, you have these 3 units, and if they die, I'm just going to wait for them to explode. And then you build some more. These units no longer have any groupings on them. They are your default units with no grouping. So I can press 1 and 1 will not pull up our crossbows. But with alt group number 1, so we select our unit, alt group number 1. Now, when we self-destruct them, these units still have a grouping of 1. So that will make it so that you can constantly have different types of units in a different hotkey. All right. Now, what my personal favorite thing to do is to have all of my raiding units in group number 1, just because they're the fastest, and I feel like 1, I don't know, it just makes sense to me to have 1 be the fastest units in the game. All right, next we would have the frontline units actually, which would be group number 2. I consider all of my heavy units, tanky units, to be in category 2, as that just made sense for me. Now, the numbering doesn't really matter. It's whatever works for your brain. Maybe you want them in 6 or 5 or, you know, for some reason 0. I guess you could make your units number 0 if you really wanted to stretch out your fingers, if you're a piano player, I guess. But yeah, not recommended. Anyway, group number 3 for your artillery units. And what this will do is mean that whenever you produce units, you can easily categorize them, even if they're in one big jumbled mess. So we have a big jumble of different types of units popping out of our factory, and we can get all of the raiding units together, all the frontline units, and all the artillery units together. So very quickly categorizing our units. And then usually I put my anti-air on number 4, unless I want to create some kind of composition where they might be mixed into the front line. So we have our artillery, our raid, and our front line that are more the protector class. All right, hopefully this is helpful. I know that it was a little bit discombobulated in talking about just a whole bunch of stuff somewhat randomly, I suppose. I probably should have done a little bit more planning on this, but if you are new to this game and wanted to kind of know some of the basics of how things worked and maybe just get encouraged to practice your grid keys, grid keys are amazing. There's a big list of them here, and honestly are the superior key binding class in my opinion compared to the legacy keys. Legacy keys do not give you quite as quick of a cycle when building units and buildings, so just keep that in mind. Definitely encourage you to learn just some of the basic keys here. They are available for you at any point in time if you have any questions, and just be sure to check them out. Anyway, thank you for watching this spattering of babbling after I got home from work, and I hope that you guys enjoy, and as always, I will see you guys on the battlefield.